Welcome, Beard Wizard family, to a special episode of whatever we want to call this. It's not really one of my normal shows, and I don't get to do this very often, so I'm very excited. Um, as you guys may or may not know, I am an author. I'm an independent author, and I currently have 5 books in publication, including one of them being a gaming book. And I just recently released my next book. So I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to reveal it. And I haven't been able to I put the gaming book out early last year, but as far as novel literature, in this case a novella, it's been a while since I put out a book that was all mine. I did a collaboration book with Ray Clark. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit because there is a story behind this book, and there's a little bit of backstory that I think might be interesting. It might not be interesting, but I would like to show you my latest book. It is called Lyssa's Gambit. It is part of a new series, a new collaborative series called The Pentacle War that I am working on with author Ray Clark. She does have a YouTube channel. It is linked in the Friends of this channel's section. So if you check that out, you can find Ray Clark's channel. She has a lot of great writing advice videos and business advice videos for independent authors and creators. So definitely check out her channel. Also follow her socials, author Ray Clark, both on Facebook and on Twitter. But the story behind this book is very interesting. Some of you who have been following me for a while may have heard us talk about or seen books from a series called The Realm of Thrall. So a few years back, Ray and I did a show up in Chicago called FanFest. It was a terrible show. The host, long story short, they changed the name right before the show. Nobody could find it. Their social media presence died because I guess they sold the convention right before the weekend of the show. In any case, and it was on Easter weekend. So it was a terrible show. It was a horrible time to have a show. It was a horrible way to plan a show. It was awful. I sold one book at that show, and it cost a lot of money to do. It cost a lot of money to be up there because if you've ever been to Chicago, everything is expensive. Breakfast was $25. Um, so incredibly, I mean, it was a huge loss. But right next to us at that show was an artist named Rich Coons, which if you go to large conventions around the area, even as far as Dragon Con, Gen Con, C2E2 in Chicago, hold on one second. This is a live show, so unfortunately, sometimes I get interrupted. Hopefully, not too much. I'm actually trying to monitor. I'm off work, but I'm actually monitoring my team's discussions in case they need me because it is kind of a busy weekend. Do 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 do. Anyway. So we're at this show. Rich Coons has a booth right next to us, and he's a beautiful artist. His art is amazing. So he's talking to us and asking about our writing, how long we've been doing it, what we've been putting out, and he proposed an idea that he had painted. He had done these paintings, the face cards and a deck of cards, um, and he wanted authors to write the stories. He had this idea of building this whole world around these characters, and he wanted authors to write the stories and write the character sketches and all of that. And it was like the opportunity of a lifetime as far as we were concerned. Um, we fast forward a little bit. We agreed. We set up a plan to have 4 authors. Each of us take a different suit. I chose the spades. Ray chose the diamonds. Another author had the clubs, and at the time, nobody had the hearts. Um, we had proposed contracts because we know how this stuff works. Um, Rich wanted to do it on handshake, which against our better judgment, we agreed to and we went with. And long story short, the project fell apart last year. Rich wanted to put it on hold. He had a new opportunity. Literally not anybody's fault. I want to make that very clear. There's no animosity. There's no anger. Um, a little bit of disappointment and frustration, but that's how the creative process goes. When you get more than one creative person into a sort of collaborative project, you're going to have conflict. It's just that's the way we work as creative people. But in any case, the project fell apart, and I had this book done. There's actually a book that preceded this, which was basically just short stories about the three main characters in this book, and that was supposed to be the lead in to this novella. Well, when that project fell apart, part of the reason it fell apart is because Rich wanted to put the project on hold. He had a new opportunity. It was going to take most of his time. I had this book done, and anybody who is an author knows that if you don't release books at least semi regularly, you don't make sales. You're going to fall off. I was starting to see that at shows. I had not put out a book in a couple of years, and I didn't have anything new to offer people. So I couldn't put this on hold. I couldn't let this wait. This needed to come out. So I had to rewrite this book. That's why it took me a while. This book has been done for 8 months, almost a year, and I had to rewrite it. I had to take anything out that referenced the old project. I actually didn't have to, but I did change character names. I did not want any connection to the old project. Rewrote the stories, renamed some places. Definitely changed any reference to the story or the world content, because Rich is the one who owned the world building, at least the concept of the world that we were writing in, and we had to remove any reference to that. Now, Ray has also had to do the same with her book. She beat me to the punch and released Dragon Dynasty, so keep an eye out for that to come back. About the diamonds, that has to be all rewritten too. So there's the story behind how this book came about, why it's been sitting, waiting to be done for a year. I would have had this book out last year. But what is Lyssa's Gambit about? I'll read the back to you, and then I'll give you a little more insight into what this is about. It says, raised in the streets of Raven's Cove, Lyssa has had a hard life, but always dreamed of more. In her time among the street gangs of the city, she learned the skills that would eventually lead her to her destiny, to become the King's Blade, which is a title. A spy, assassin, advisor. The Blade is the right hand of the King of Aurelia. Achieving her dream, however, is only the beginning. Aurelia is a land under threat from rival kingdoms and jealous rulers. One of the four houses that survived the Pentacle War, Aurelia is on the brink of another war. It is Lyssa's task to determine who threatens the king's life and the land's tenuous peace. So, the Pentacle War, Ray and I came up with this idea of this ancient war. We're not sure how far. We have not written the history of this world yet. We're kind of piecing it together as we go and developing this world as we build it together. But the Pentacle War is a war between five kingdoms, five houses, in this land, this continent. And at the end of it, one of those houses, as far as anybody knows, was utterly destroyed. The other four houses came out of it in different levels of financial and financial stability, political stability, etc. So there are some disparities between the powers of the four houses that remain. Aurelia is one of those kingdoms that came out of the Pentacle War. And they came out of it okay. I believe the diamonds, well, not the diamonds, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. We're still trying to get our heads around changing everything. We've been using the old terminology for years now, and it's been a challenge. So Ray's kingdom, which I believe is called Diamant, is a kingdom of elves, and she describes their culture very much as like an Asian sort of. I believe she's still going with an Asian theme. There's going to be Drake riders and airships and all kinds of really cool stuff. More technology than Aurelia. Aurelia falls more along the lines of what I would call maybe late Renaissance, Middle Ages. There's magic. There's intrigue. They are a seafaring kingdom. They do a lot of work. Raven's Cove is their capital. It's a very large port city that is actually surrounded by cliffs, and the city is built in the bay, in the cove, but also built up the sides of the cliffs. So the city is almost like a cliff dwelling type city, with the sort of, what would I say, the different castes of people living higher up the cliffs. The higher you go, the more influential, the more powerful, the richer the people become as you go up. Wes, thanks for stopping in. Plan to purchase books. Awesome. Speaking of that, I probably should have said this at the beginning. In the video description below, I put the Amazon link if you want to order the book. It's not out in ebook yet, but it will be out soon. The eBay link if you want to get them signed directly from me. The only difference in cost is $5 extra for shipping. Because I got to have them shipped to me and then I got to have them shipped to you. But otherwise, same price. I don't charge extra for signed copies like some authors do. Also, everything else in the video description, the links to all my socials, the links to all of the other ways to support this channel. But what is this book basically about? Lyssa, our young protagonist, again, dreams of living at court. She dreams of not living on the streets anymore, of being influential politically and financially. And so when an opportunity arises, the old King's Blade dies, and they hold sort of a contest within the city to elect, not really elect, whoever wins this competition becomes the new King's Blade. She gets sent off to training. She comes back, and her first mission, so to speak, is to uncover who is behind the coup, trying to take out the king of Aurelia. And so there's some intrigue, there's some travel, there's some backstabbing, some back and forth, a little bit of combat, a little bit of adventure. But yeah, it's a fun book to write. I think it's going to be a fun book to read. And if you guys are interested, definitely check out the links. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And I will have this book available at all shows. My next show is next weekend in Springfield, Illinois. There is a toy, I think it's a toy and collectible show. I will be there. I will be at PeoriaCon end of the month in Peoria, Illinois at the Civic Center. And then I believe our next show after that is Origins in Columbus, Ohio. So I will have this book at all shows this year and going forward, along with all my other books. So Wes and everybody else who was here, thank you so much. Check out the book, check out the links, and let me know if you have any questions. I will see you guys all again soon. Thank you for stopping in, Wes and everybody else. You have a great one. Much love.